Hey everybody. Hey Jared, how are you?
I'm doing all right. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing good. You ready for our first topic?
Yes, I am.
All right, let's do it. The future of D&D. What is the future of D&D?
I mean, it's a good topic. It's a big topic.
Yeah, it's a big topic.
Yeah.
What do you think the future of D&D will be? What first, where do you think it is now? I think that's where we got to kind of start it, right?
Um, well, I mean, I think D&D is in an interesting place right now. Community seems to be split down the middle or almost down the middle. So like on one hand, you have old school, usually more old school guys are not happy with WotC and what they've done, quote unquote, with D&D. And you have the other side, which are basically new players, a lot of new players and new blood. And some of them have been in for years now, five, six, seven. Hell, they may have started in fifth edition. And fifth edition's over, it's over 10 years old now.
Yeah, yeah, it's wild to think of that, eh?
I know, but people treat it like it's the new kid on the block sometimes too.
Yeah,
And oh, well, fourth edition was so much better, or third edition, or obviously AD&D and da 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 da. But I think they also forget that you know, fourth edition was not generally what people wanted. And what's funny is they showed it because WotC only had it in production for like 4 years
right.
or 5 years, and they supported it. They threw a lot of resources at it. There were a lot of source books, but it's not what people wanted. People went to Pathfinder in droves,
I did.
and
I did.
yeah, it was D&D 3.75. That's
Yeah.
what Pathfinder was. And then when 5e came back, there's a lot of trepidation about, if they were going to handle it right. And I think, and a lot of people think, that they knocked it out of the park. They did a really good job.
Right.
Um, and then so the people came back, and then slowly people started to get annoyed with WotC. Um, I guess the source books weren't good enough, or they weren't in depth enough. They started. I feel like I know they've rehashed a bunch of old books and old settings, and a lot of people are angry because they feel like they didn't do a very good job of that. They didn't throw enough material at that. But I think that's later. That's like after the problem started with WotC, right? Was when then they were like, oh well, now we got to like try to redo all these old settings and try to get those players back. And but then only releasing like one book on like Ravenloft or Spelljammer. You know what I mean? These are major settings for old school gamers. So I think they're in a precarious place right now. On one hand, they have a lot of new blood and they love the game, and then but you've also lost a fair amount of your key audience that arguably pushed the game forward when it wasn't being supported very well. I guess you could say that. It's
Yeah.
hard to say though. That's kind of that even that's kind of hard to say.
Well, I know with the new 2024 books, and I know you're involved in people who play fifth edition, and I don't know, and I'm not going to really do the work to go look and see, mainly because I just don't really care. But I think in this conversation, like
Yeah.
I'm not sure, like how was that perceived? The 2024 books, was that a thing where you like the players that you're playing with, the games that you're involved in? Was it just like, all right, we're getting rid of these books and we're going to get these books, and this is what we're going to do? And that's what I'm not really sure about. So is there anything that you can shed light on that with your groups or the people you've played with?
Well, I'm currently in a few, well, what, one 5e group, and we just kind of finished the story arc, and we're considering actually migrating over to five. I just call it 5.5,
Okay.
5.5, just to try it. I have another DM who I play with, and he loves 5.5, and he's played D&D since AD&D. So
Right.
like, the thing is, like, people give it was WotC did really bad timing. I think is they're just the kings and queens of terrible fucking timing.
Right.
Um, between all their ridiculous stuff that's happened to them, and the AI stuff, and then the PC stuff, and then like
Yeah.
just so much stuff happening at the company and it getting in the way. The new CEO, which like just reminds people of like everything that it's like you shouldn't be a CEO of WotC. like
Right.
just straight up. You're just not here to care about the players. You're here to make money,
Right.
which
They feel that. The players feel that.
they feel it. But
Yeah.
it's owned by Hasbro. Hasbro is a major company. From their perspective, Hasbro is looking at WotC and they're like, okay, well, how do we make more money? We obviously see Magic the Gathering has been a cash cow for 35 plus years.
Right.
Why is this D&D area not making us money? It's just not making us money. And I get it from a company perspective,
Yeah.
but you also could do a much better job of disguising that, and obviously and putting out good material that the community likes and respects the community, but also to make money. Because I mean, they've made so many moves to consolidate their part of the industry, i.e., not only from the publishing standpoint, but from the digital standpoint. They now own D&D Beyond. They opened DM's Guild years ago. They take 50% of whatever you publish on there. D&D Beyond used to be, it was a third party.
Right.
They were licensed to sell stuff. Then 2, 3 years ago, WotC just bought it because they want both. They want to control all of that. And I get it. I get it, but it's coming at the cost of all of these other issues that they're struggling to really deal with. And I think they're just going to retain the license. I think they'll be fine. I think D&D 5.5, people don't realize or remember that, like, third edition 3.5 was released within 2 years.
Yeah. It was real quick.
It was really quick. And third edition like had its problems. I don't know if it merited. I mean, it wound up being a good call
Yeah.
because
Well, they
people
did it
love
early on,
3.5.
so people were they hadn't invested in it. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's the difference here is that more than likely people they feel invested in fifth edition and they don't want to go to this new 2024 edition. That might be one of the issues. I know it sold a bunch, like it sold a bunch quickly, but I don't believe that it was able to continue that momentum
Well,
of
it's
purchase.
not continuable.
Yeah.
It's not continuable. The WotC's entire problem is how do we get people paying subscription fees? Like
Right.
any company nowadays. I mean, I think it's hard for people to realize that these are companies. This is a very large company that wants to make money off of an area that it hasn't traditionally made a lot of money on. I mean, WotC has survived on Magic.
Right.
It has not survived on D&D.
No.
So, and while I do agree with people like, well, D&D will survive,
Sure.
they're just a caretaker. I'm in the BattleTech community, so I hear this bitching constantly about Catalyst games.
Right.
That you got old grognards talking about how Catalyst is perverting, the battle. I was like, okay, well, I mean, this is the only company that has led a renaissance
Yeah.
in BattleTech.
Yeah. They
Okay,
did great.
it's very similar. The reason why I bring it up is very similar. It's very similar. BattleTech, Catalyst Games, and WotC. Even though Catalyst is tiny, it's like people throw shade at it like it's a multi-million. It's not.
You're right.
It's like there's like 12 people that work at Catalyst or something. It's probably more than that, but it's really not that big.
Right.
WotC is a massive company, so they're not. Yeah, but the perspective is the same. Where it's like you have BattleTech grognards getting mad at new players and the company, and I'm like, dude, you have all these new plastic box sets, you have all these new players, you have all this new content,
I'm a
all
new
this new
player.
stuff.
Yeah. I'm a new player of BattleTech.
Exactly. I'm a new player of BattleTech. I only got in like 2018,
Right. Right.
2019, but I am fully invested in BattleTech.
Sure.
I now
We can
work.
see that. We can see that.
I love BattleTech.
Well, I mean, it's good
But I do
sculpts.
work for Shrapnel Magazine for
Right.
Catalyst Games. I do a lot of pen and ink work for them. I love those books as a kid, even though I didn't play it.
Right.
And now it's kind of a dream come true. With WotC, the Grognards, they're not. I don't think they wanted an influx of new players. I don't think they wanted an influx of money. I think they're just thinking at it from their perspective, where they're like, well, they've taken what I loved and they're pumping out subpar material and they're just doing it for money. But it's like the company's got to think about more than just that. And there are other options. They led a renaissance in RPG games, you know, and I'm not saying that there wasn't a golden age, because there was a golden age
Right.
in RPG games, just like in PC games, late 90s, early 2000s. You have lots of games doing lots of different things. But now this is another, in my opinion, I feel like this is another golden age. People just
Oh, it is.
Sometimes when you live in a golden age, you don't realize that it's a
Yeah.
golden age.
Yeah, yeah, like the board game. Board games are in a
That's
they've been in a
ridiculous.
golden age.
Yeah.
They've been a golden age for years and years.
Yep.
Um, I I think about this topic and it's like I just want to have like just verbal diarrhea about it almost, where there's just so much to talk about. And I can tell you
Yeah.
all my little nitpicks of what I don't like about Wizards of the Coast,
Yeah.
and what they've done with the game. And if it's Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast, it doesn't really matter. It's the whole thing. It's like
Yeah.
when you say
It's the
Marvel.
IP.
If you say Marvel and you say I don't like Marvel or whatever, and it's like, well, that's comic books, that's the movies, that's video
Yeah.
game. There's a whole bunch to it, but I just put it all in that one thing and say, why have I moved away from this? And it's like almost like a death by a thousand cuts for me, where they just didn't a lot of the stuff they did, I found it to be anti-consumer. And it's kind of the way I feel about other like maybe video game companies where it's like that's anti-consumer to me. It changes the mold of what I'm used to. And the problem with role-playing games, unlike Magic and stuff like that, is that they kind of don't have to be current. They stay as they are in a great form, in a great edition, completely playable with nostalgia and love behind it.
Yeah.
And you've got to really do something to make them go to the next one and the next one and the next one if you're going to continue that same game. And it's just something that it's always been difficult. I know they've been trying to micro, transaction it and stuff like that. And that's just so difficult because it's so easy as a consumer to be like, no. And I don't feel like I have to keep up with this. And not only do I feel like I have to keep up with it, there's a little bit of street cred whenever I say I didn't keep up with it. You see, like I'm sticking to my guns, and people
Yeah.
say, "Yeah, that's the addition, and that's what I'm with you." And so you're already making kind of this camp thing with it. And I know we talked about it, in kind of preparation for this topic because it is a very big topic. I just there's so many things that they've done, either Hasbro or Woods of the Coast, that kind of struck out about either the legacy of D&D, of the creators of D&D that hurt people. You have an
Mm-hmm.
influx of content creators that are trying to make a big rage about what D&D is doing, and at the same time, you've got someone, and this is kind of how I feel. It's not a product it's not targeting me. I'm an older, starting to be an older dude. They know that they don't need to cater to me. They've got to cater to the next person that's going to play D&D, who's going to champion in these games in the future. So they're catering into younger people. I fully get that. I guess my as someone who wants D&D still to thrive like it did in the old days, I don't understand why in their massive amounts of energy, resources, artists, writers, which I don't know exactly how many they have, and that's another whole topic of
A
discussion is how
lot.
actually big is Wizard of the Coast when it comes to doing role playing games. Is why didn't they just try to cater to us, like the OSR crew? Why didn't they? They used to make D&D TSR used to make other editions of D&D at the same time, and they said, "Hey, look, this is a basic edition of D&D. It's for easy, for easier entry into the game." And it feels like they just said, you know what, we're not even give you that. And instead of that, what we'll do is we'll kind of make this skin of a something that you love, be it forgotten, like you talked about, Spelljammer, Ravenloft, all this stuff.
Mm.
We'll make a skin of it, and it'll just be like a bastardization of it, and it won't have the effort that we put into. Now, that's the thing. TSR's effort was unparalleled. No one's ever been able to do what TSR was able to do.
It drove them into bankruptcy.
Yeah, exactly. It was yeah, and it was
That people forget that it's like, oh yeah, no, it's
yeah.
like you read about the history of TSR and you're
It
like,
did. It did. But
yeah.
on the flip side, it provided us as the consumer all this stuff. And it was very in depth. So it was like it's unfortunate for the company, but ultimately, and sure, there's some products that are not fantastic, especially with second edition or something, but they were still able to produce at that level to give people all these different options, all these different settings that were fully
But I feel
fleshed
like
out.
let me interject for a second. So to me it feels like wotc has tried to reach out an olive branch to the old school crowd. I'm not going to say that because I don't know if the old school and OSR are ubiquitous. I don't know if
No,
that's true. I think
no,
there's definitely a lot of crossover,
sure.
but I will say like the new setting that they're doing Greyhawk. WotC's doing Greyhawk. I mean, the fact that they would even because I've been in the creative room, like I've done map pushes and stuff, right? And
Right.
basically, you sit in, you're at a round table of writers. You know, I'm sitting there with Jeremy Crawford. I'm sitting there,
Mhm.
you know, and we're throwing ideas around, and I'm doing the cartography sketches and stuff for these different ideas and whatever. And so that kind of writing room. And I brought up the fact that I wanted Birthright. I was like, "Are you all gonna do Birthright?" And they're like, "No." And I was like, well, why? It's such a great setting. They're like, it's a great setting, but the name is problematic, and having blood linked to divine, linked to, you know, current in the current, you know, this was like 2018 or whatever. It just wasn't okay for the company to do that. And I'm like, I mean, it's legitimate. You know, it's somewhat legitimate.
Yeah.
So then you go to, they're like, well, what are you doing? And at that time, nobody knew, but they were doing Dragonlance.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, I mean, that's old school. Like Dragonlance is an introduction for a lot of people. Then I
Oh, it
didn't know
was
they
for
were going to
me.
do Greyhawk. I brought up the idea. I was like, you should go back and do Greyhawk. They're like, no, no, no. 7 years later, of course, they're going to do
Sure. They've
Greyhawk. But what
exhausted
I'm saying
everything.
is, even if they, I think it's a mechanics thing, and I do think it's an effort thing.
Yeah.
Because if they, I know multiple people that like the new Dragonlance stuff.
Sure.
They run because they have a large scale army combat thing. They have, you know, they actually put some effort into Dragonlance. Now, is it enough effort? Is it gonna reach TSR level? No,
No.
it's just not gonna do it.
No, it's not
Uh,
that's not the focus anymore. It's never happening. It's never going to happen again.
well, I wonder if it's just a matter of resources as well. So while WotC, the floor with, I think they may have merged the floors, but they used to be separate floors between Wizards and or not Wizards, Magic and D&D.
Mm.
And there was Rich Witters was the one that wanted to get all the artists together. He was an artist, and he was the head art director, then he was the head creative director, and his stuff like, I'm sorry, but Out of the Abyss is a great game, is a great book. Fantastic D&D 5e source book. It's brutal, it's dark, super creative, the artwork's amazing, maps are great.
They are
but I'm
good.
but it
Who
they
did those maps? Do you know?
I don't know. It's a blands. I don't know. But so that's what I mean is like people throw a lot of shade at WotC, but they've done the Baldur's Gate one is great. That's a great source book. The ideas that we were throwing around for that, and then they incorporated some of them in with what's her name? Lazael, not Lazael, the head celestial, fallen celestial, and then you can convert her in the game. You can bring her sword and you can reclaim her, and they have rules for like if you make the DC and she reclaims her celestial, you know, hood, and she fights along with you instead of just being a big bad enemy. It's just like really interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that WotC gets a lot of shade, and a lot of it, some of it, I'm not going to say a lot of it, but some of it is unmerited because some of the people throwing shade at these books, they haven't even played the adventures.
Nah.
That's
Well,
the thing. It's
that's
like
the
you
hurdle.
can't, but that is a hurdle. But it's like a lot of grognards, they're not going to do that.
No.
They're going to complain about what they don't like because of whatever issue and not give it a fair shake. And
Sure.
that to me is, you can't really complain about it if you haven't played it. You
Right.
just can't. I mean,
Well,
you
it's
can, but I don't think it's very fair to do
well,
that.
it's an investment. That's the thing. This is not just watching a movie for like an hour and a half or two. Well, they don't make movies almost in an hour and a half, 2.5 hours, since they can't
Sure.
make movies that are tight anymore. They've got to blow them up. So
I
it's
know.
like it's such an investment to play. So it's difficult to
Mhm.
say. And that's kind of the other thing that I know that we talked about too is, and for me, and it's one of the things why I don't really, I think is if you don't like what they're doing, then don't buy their product. But at the same time, like, you know, I don't know what you're the goal of raging at them is really just to, I guess, just inflate the people around you. Yeah, exactly.
It gets views. See,
Yeah,
that's
it
the thing.
does.
That's why I honestly don't really participate in much social media.
Right.
Because I don't need the extra stress and I don't care. Honestly, people have an agenda. It doesn't matter what fucking side
Yeah.
you are, and they just want you to rage about whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't care. I want to talk to my friend
Right.
about things I care about, and I think we can talk about it, and we're pretty balanced, you
Yeah.
know. And I think people need that. They want it,
Yeah.
and it's okay to be like calm, and also be like, yeah, there's two sides of every coin, you know. So this whole like raging at 5e, and you know, and oh, the release of 5.5 or 2024, or it was a failure, or it was another fail. It's like it was. I mean, what did it go as well as they wanted it to go? No. Was it a natural progression of 5e? Yes. I think there's a lot of 5e material that they sort of incorporated. The
Mhm.
way that they released it and how they built it up. I mean, I would equivalent. I would basically, it'd be equivalent of the Pathfinder second edition, you know, or Starfinder, where they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be great, it's gonna be," great. And then it drops, and everybody's like, "All right."
Yeah. Whatever.
I mean, but how
It's
many
echo
people throw
chamber.
shade at Pathfinder? No, they don't. They throw it at WotC because WotC's massive.
Yeah.
But with Pathfinder, I'm like, yeah, I heard second edition's good. Have I played it? No. Is it? Am I gonna crap on it because it's a second edition and it didn't do as well or whatever? No, I
Right.
don't care. It was roughly the same time frame, by the way. So I just think it's funny where people, you know, it's these hot button issues.
Yeah.
They're the big boy on, you know, at the end of the day, WotC doesn't even need defending.
No.
It's they're a big company. They make big decisions. They do whatever the hell they want, and either you're going to play the game or you're not.
Or you're not.
I Yeah, and I think going to the next point would be like there's a lot of options right now. There's a
Yeah.
lot of really great games, and if you don't want to play D&D, either play a D&D or third or fourth, right? Or
Yeah.
original,
Yeah.
or play another game.
Or
There's
SR games, play it there. So, and then, yeah, and that's the thing is that it's like we want the name to be as good as the game that we hope it to be. You know, we want that name to be there, and they've done a lot of stuff to kind of push back on almost every aspect of it, from their art. I have a lot of issue when I look through one of their books. You know, with their
yeah,
art. You know, it's just it's to me, it's technically good. It's not inspiring. It does not the art. Of course, I'm looking for something a little bit different. And I think we've gotten to a point, and it's where they don't want to latch on to, and that's edginess. There was a time when you played D&D, you were thought of as like a kind of an outcast and an edgy person, and whoa, you're a nerd, and there's so many layers to this. This is not just about Wizard of the Coast. It has to do about society and growing up and being ostracized for what you play and the music you listen to and the time that it came out, especially for me in the 90s and stuff, of that whole journey. And like you almost endured it. You know what I mean? Like it was like I kind of did my time and I had to endure this because I played D&D and this is an edgy game. It's the same thing right here with like White Wolf games, you know what I mean? And then it doesn't become edgy and it becomes mainstream. And then so you're still kind of, I feel, looking for that edge somewhere out there. And that's where I think the OSR embraces that with mechanics, with really creative people that are writing some stuff that Wizard of the Coast couldn't even possibly. The people they have might be talented, but they're talented. I feel like in a generic sense, and they can create some cool stories and some cool characters and stuff. But where you're going to find the new breakout thing is not going to be them. And so it's like, why would I even continue to look at them when these people are kind of breaking the mold and thinking outside the box? And so it's again,
yeah,
it's like a leap where I think we're always trying to find something edgy. So when we see art that isn't edgy, it's not inspiring. We go, this is sucks. This doesn't inspire me. That doesn't inspire me. This is wordy. Look at all this. You look at all the stat block. You look at fifth edition. They've pigeonholed themselves into such a big. It's like Pathfinder. It's such a big game now. You look at all the feats and the spells, and it's just like,
yeah.
my God. And then I go to another game, and I'm like, this does the same thing in a very small package. And it's like, why did they? And I guess that's what I keep on coming back to is like, it's not like someone stopped them from doing this. This was a legitimate choice of theirs to say, we're going to make a big, bloated, generic looking game. And it may have some cool stories, but you know what? You won't even touch it. Some people won't even touch it because it's the popular thing. It's on Big Bang Theory, and the art doesn't really inspire us because we don't want to really be edgy about any of this stuff. And so a lot of people don't even want to take the effort to look at it to see if it's actually a good story because it doesn't present that way. And whenever you see a nice OSR book that's got an incredible cover, it's made out of something that's like, it's like a leather. It's got, you look at the maps and it exudes creativity and imagination and kind of, and then if it does go into some dark places, that Wizard Coast's not going to do that. You talk about Birthright, people talk about Dark Sun. They're not going to do that. So like, why even like with Greyhawk? It's like they're not going to do it. You feel like they're not going to do any of it justice. So why should I even mess with it? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I can speak from. It's interesting. So I've done, you know this, but audience may not. But I did an insane amount of Pathfinder
Right.
maps. When Pathfinder was still, I think, being licensed or was still a part of 3.5. I was doing a lot of Pathfinder work. I think I've done probably over two or 300 maps at least for
Wow.
Pathfinder.
Incredible.
So a lot of that stuff is no longer in print or whatever. But that was early, late 2000s or whatever.
Right.
But at one point, when they started getting bigger and fourth edition dropped and they became their own thing, and I was still doing work for them, at one point, it used to be I would just go ham on these maps. And the art directors were like, this is great. Like I could just do whatever I wanted and use all these different, I like a lot of design work and text and sigils. And because to me, it was this is a cartographer in world. And as a viewer, you're not going to know what the fuck is going on.
Right.
All these things, there has to be mystery. Maps are interesting because we could talk about this in another topic, which
Yeah,
we
we got
will.
one. We get
Yeah,
it.
we got one. But
It's coming.
anyway, like there was a point where the art director was like, you can't do this. You can't do this. Every time I get revisions back, it looked like it was my paper was graded and it was covered in red ink. Just things you can't have this, you can't have this writing, you can't have this. So I eventually stopped working for Pathfinder as much, and I started working for fourth edition for wotc for fourth edition, then fifth edition. Fifth edition, they were like, do whatever the hell you want. When for Rise of Tiamat and Horde of the Dragon Queen, and they were like, do whatever the hell you want. We just want them to look cool. And that continued for the next couple of
Good.
years until eventually about 2019. Then as WotC got really big, as D&D got really big, the art director was like, can't have that.
Mm.
Can't have this. Can't have that. And the sad thing is the art directors are like, this looks amazing. I love what you did with this, but we can't do it because we don't know if somebody's actually going to read that writing. We don't know if that symbol means something in another, this is an internationally published game, so and I understand. I totally understand where they're coming from. Like you're trying to prevent yourself from liable. You're trying to protect yourself and the IP from being sued. And in today's day and age, I mean, especially in America, everybody
Yeah.
sues everybody for everything. That's the thing you do for some fucking reason.
Yeah.
So
Sanitize. You had to sanitize it.
you have to sanitize it, and I some art directors are a little more open than others, but generally, while I love the WotC art directors, they really are great,
Mm.
and they do want to try to make the best product, and just the best interesting thing you can do. They are limited, and so a lot of times it's not their fault.
Right.
uh and so that has kind of put a damper in creativity where it's like I can't take the ball and run with it, and that goes with success, right? The more
Yeah.
success you have, the more your audience
Yeah.
grows. The more your audience grows, the more you have to worry about.
Yeah. More
Um,
eyes are on your products.
exactly. Which OSR doesn't have that problem. Not
No.
really. Nobody
No.
cares.
No.
You're talking about a couple thousand players as opposed to millions of players. That's a massive difference. And I think
Sure.
that's something that the OSR community, I think I give them enough credit that they would at least consider that.
Mm.
But some of them really take it to the extreme where it's like, your OSR product, it's not published. It's not even published in Europe.
Right.
It's not even translated into German or French. Okay, now you're talking about this massive product that's going to be translated into 40 languages.
You're right.
Like a lot to consider there. I
Yeah.
will agree with you, and I think the fifth edition artwork, it started off really fresh. Lots of watercolor, lots of a different look, a better look, that was paid homage to second to advanced AD&D
Mm.
and third edition, but kind of took it in its own direction. You had a lot of a great, like Chris Ron. You had what's his name? I don't remember all their names, but I mean, I know all these people. I've been to Gen Con with them,
Right.
but basically they were doing some great stuff, and now I feel like the art has just like atrophied.
Mm.
it seriously looks boring
It does.
because everything looks the same.
Yeah.
Everything looks the same. There's just almost like nothing distinctive about it.
It looks
Um,
happy. It looks happy to me.
yeah,
It's happy
well,
art.
the new dude, the last couple of years, I'm like, this cover is terrible.
Yeah.
This cover's terrible, and I'm just saying that from like a design perspective. I'm like, this doesn't work. The color palette, and I'm not the greatest artist in the world. I just have my own opinion,
Sure.
but I do a fair amount of design, and I'm just like, this is just yeah, and like some of the design choices, I'm just like, this is not great.
Right.
It looks like it should be, but it's not really good,
Right. And then
and
when
it's
you
it's
get
definitely
into
was
it, some of it's really bad. Like really, like you start you're like, well, let's really delve into it, and you're like, ooh, why is this
yeah.
why is this person's head so big? Their body so big? They're small. You start getting into technical weirdness. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And
it's
it's
like the
like,
halfling stuff.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. It's just
it
like,
just looks like a human. Well, that comes down to just reference.
yeah.
Like, there's just they're not going to do Rankin and Bass stuff, which is a
Ooh.
shame because
Could you
turning
imagine?
dwarves into Rankin and Bass, like ugly, stunted,
Yeah.
make them look distinctive.
God.
Make halflings look distinct. They're not humans
Right.
with tiny bodies. Now, Lord of the Rings, the movie did that, but even in Lord of the Rings, I would say the book kind of did that. They were fair. Well, Frodo was fair. And so they looked human like. They looked like human children to an
Yeah. Human
extent. But it's like,
children a lot.
but from like a visual perspective, it's okay to go in a different direction.
Yeah.
And like I
Stand
just
out. Be different.
yeah,
And
and
they
like
started to not do that.
yeah, exactly. Well, even the limiting. I mean, they should have fifth edition should have had like or at least the expansion should have had like I don't know like 25 races to make like that would have been
Oh
of
yeah.
course it would have been insane to try to
Yeah.
balance it, but at
Huge.
the same
Well,
time it's like give us options.
you're right. And then that's a whole other topic too. When you talk about that is, kind of that again, the sanitizing of races and their abilities, and it's just like little things like that. They made these little choices that they didn't realize were going to be big, like big issues with people. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, we're gonna make pretty much it doesn't matter what your stats are. Whoever you just be a race, and it's like I want to play something different. I don't want to play something that's just a skin. It was almost like again, it was like the way they did with the settings. It was just a skin of the character, and it's like no, I
Well,
want that
because
character to be like this. I don't, it was, oh, you got to role play. I said, yeah, but I want it in the mechanics. I want you to hold me back because I picked this. You
here's
know,
what I think that the original D&D and a lot of classic fantasy and RPGs grew up with the race being connected to like the class or
right?
whatever.
Yep.
And so I think they did move away from that in third edition, right? Even though the abilities of the race did give you like some class features, like it was kind of interesting,
Yeah.
like attributes or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's just too close to like we can't define them as a culture
That's not right.
because
It's not right.
because and I'm like, it's like a fantasy world, right? Like it's okay to have some culture in here. They're
Yeah.
like, oh well, it's a negative characteristic. It's like
Okay.
because they're ferocious,
Yeah.
it's like like humans had like tribal races for like
Yeah.
pretty much since civilization started,
Yeah.
pre-civilization. Like so you get into these again, you get into the culture wars, you get into this, and I understand some of it.
I do
Other
too.
stuff, it's like how far does a company go to try to strip down something
Yeah.
and then layer something else over so that they can try to protect themselves and insulate themselves? Because to be honest, it goes on both sides. I mean, they're getting yammered at from both angles.
Right.
And you're just like, Jesus Christ. I mean, if I was in their position, what the fuck do you do? What do you
I
do?
don't know. I
Other
don't know.
than what they did, which is like, dude, like I don't think they did it well, and I think their timing is shit. But I
Yeah.
also think with a game that gets this big and they're desperate to make it profitable, and they want TVs and they want TV stuff, they want game stuff,
Movies.
movies, and I
And they
and
didn't
I
work. It
understand.
didn't work. Movie didn't work. Like it might have been successful and people love it, but they shut down the studio. They shut down their internet stuff with like the thing where you're going to do all your game through it, like their virtual tabletop. Like they said we're going to come out with this, and then it failed, and then it failed, and people said, oh well, I thought fifth edition was such a big win for them, but they were having losses left and right. So it was kind of like people. it was just more red meat to be like, see, they're terrible. They're a horrible company, and they do they do kind of have issues or mishaps, and it's more than just this game. There's so much more attached to it,
Well, it
that they're
comes
involved
from
in.
it comes from I'm telling you, it comes from that CEO.
Yeah,
It comes from, hey, I'm gonna this is how traditional capitalistic business works in the United States. You put a lot of money in, you push a lot of product forward, you get people into this thing, and then you keep throwing money. And now it takes money to make money. So yeah, we're gonna put $300 million in, but we expect to get $360 million out.
right,
And the problem is not only did they completely misjudge their competition, even if it's small, they
right,
completely misjudged the community. They
hmm,
completely it's not, this is not a standard IP.
right,
This is a storied IP with that. Multiple companies have held the reins, mostly two, I guess. But like they've done they and I guess when it comes to the competition, it's like, D&D is like in it'd be great to play D&D, but when people think of D&D, they don't necessarily think of D&D the IP,
right.
right? I'm going to play RPG games. What are you playing? I'm playing D&D. People
Yeah,
literally say that, and
it's
they're like playing some other game.
It's the
Like, you know what I mean?
Kleenex. It's the like we
Yeah.
talked about. It's the Kleenex of role playing games. That name, and people
Yeah.
just want the name to be as good as what they call it. They call some other game D&D. And there's so much. I mean, there's so much to talk about with this topic. We'll be going into a part two of this because I know we've both got much more to say about it. But there's a lot to talk about. There's I don't really have any rage anymore, I think that's one of the things is like I would get angry about some stuff, but I realized it simply wasn't marketed. It's not for me anymore. And it's not it could be. I will play a game of it. I don't hate it. A lot of this is imagination. And of course, if they could figure some way out, to microtransaction your imagination, they'd be all over it. But like it's in my mind. So they can't really take that away from me. And if no one's going to come and take my books over here, and so you've got to
Yeah.
play fifth edition, but it's a big topic that's got a lot of different parts to it. I mean, I everything from the fact that I like Goodman Games making small like 16-page adventures I can buy, and I don't have to buy a big 50-page 1 to 15th level campaign with a really bare bones setting world that they stole from second edition and said, hey, we're doing it again. I'm like, you're not the same people. This is not the same art. You didn't have the same vision. And there's also a whole thing where we consume media differently now. Whenever
Yeah.
D&D was back in the way it was, it was there was so little of this type of entertainment. When it comes to movies, TV shows, video games, role-playing games, there was so few of it that it was magnified. It was massive. It was focal, it was focused in. And now we've got so much entertainment. And they're trying to deal with that as well. And we're trying to take advantage of that too. It's smaller, quicker games. We're getting older. We can't sit there and deal with explaining how to play this game to people because their attention is just different, the way that they're made. And maybe for a second part, with the second part, we can delve into some of that. There's much more that we can talk about,
Oh,
but
there's a lot. There's a
yeah,
lot more to talk
we'll
about.
do it into a part two, and who knows, we may even have to go to a part three. This could also we just do like 16 videos. Like, okay, we're gonna we're gonna figure this thing out, man.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
solve the world's
we're
problems.
we're both agreed this sucks, right? Like this sucks, but there's a lot to it, and it's not always so black and white as much as people want it to do. And there's a lot of parts and people involved, such as yourself, that can see different angles in it.
Yeah.
But we'll stay tuned for part two. We'll have that out shortly as well.
Yep.
And appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.